This tutorial is for 4th grade, Module 3, Lesson 14. In this lesson, we're going to solve word problems using arrays and paying careful attention to the leftover portion of each array. For example, our first problem says, we have 19 identical socks. How many pairs of socks are there? Will there be any socks without a match? If so, how many? Now the directions tell me to use an array to solve the problem. So just a reminder that an array is a diagram of rows and columns that we use when we're learning multiplication. I'm going to start by making pairs of socks in my array. And I know that a pair of socks obviously would be 2 socks. So I'm going to count by 2s until I get close to 19. So I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. Now since I have 19 socks, I'm going to put that 19th sock on the bottom row. The question says, how many pairs of socks do we have? Well, I'll circle my groups of 2 to show that I have 9 pairs of socks and that I have 1 sock left over. So again, putting them into the array formation and circling the pairs makes it obvious that we have the 1 sock left over. Let's look at another problem. It says if it takes 8 inches of ribbon to make a bow, how many bows can be made from 3 feet of ribbon? And a reminder that 1 foot equals 12 inches. So I know that each bow is going to take 8 inches of ribbon. I've already written my answer statement with a blank showing where the final answer will go. So blank 8-inch bows can be made from 3 feet of ribbon. Well, the first thing we need to do is deal with our inches and our feet. We want to work in the same unit. Since I know that 1 foot equals 12 inches, then 3 feet is the same as 36 inches. We'll make it easier to work with inches since the bows are inches as well. And then once again, I'll make an array showing the 8 inches of ribbon for each bow. So I'll make a dot for each inch. So my first row shows me 1 bow. I've used 8 inches. And I'm going to continue showing rows of 8 inches until I've used up all 36 inches. At the end of my 4th row, I've used 32 inches, so I'm going to show the remaining 4 inches off to the side. Again, each row will represent 1 bow. So I'll circle my groups of 8 inches so I can see that with 36 inches of ribbon, I can make 4 8-inch bows, and I also see that I have 4 inches left over. In the next section, we're going to use tape diagrams to help us solve the problems. This problem says the baker has 42 kilograms of flour. She uses 8 kilograms each day. After how many days will she need to buy more flour? So we need to come up with the number of days before she needs flour. If I draw a tape to represent my 42 kilograms, I'll show the entire tape is equal to 42 kilograms. I know that 1 day uses 8 kilograms. The problem is I don't know how many days will pass before she needs more flour. So I'm going to just put a question mark on the inside of the tape because I don't know how many sections I need to divide the tape into in order to use up the 42 kilograms. I am going to use my basic facts and I think of how close I can get to 42 when I'm multiplying by 8. Well, I know if I take 8 times 5, That will get me to 40. That's as close as I can get to 42 without going over. So I'm going to show that this section of the tape is worth 40, and then I have 2 kilograms left over. Since 8 times 5 equals 40, then I know that this section is 5 days. So my answer is she will need more flour after 5 days. And again, 8 times 5 is 40, which shows me this portion of the tape is, and then I have 2 kilograms left over. Here's another example using tape diagrams. This one says Caleb has 76 apples. He wants to bake as many pies as he can. If it takes 8 apples to make each pie, how many apples will he use and how many apples will not be used? Again, I'm going to start with my answer statement so I know the goal of the problem. We'll say he will use blank apples, and then blank apples will not be used. I'll draw a tape diagram to represent the 76 apples. So the total tape is 76. I know that one pie will take 8 apples, but the problem is I don't know how many groups I need altogether. So I'm going to put my question mark there. And again, I'm going to think of my groups of 8 or my multiples of 8 to get close to 76 without going over. Well, 8 times 9 is 72. So I know I can make 9 pies using 8 apples in each one, and that leaves a leftover of 4. Because I've used up 72 apples, there are 4 left over. To fill in my statement, he will use 72 apples. 4 apples will not be used. Let's look at one more question. This one says 45 people are going to the beach. 7 people can ride in each van. How many vans will be required to get everyone to the beach? I'll write my answer statement to begin with. Blank vans will be needed. I'll use the tape diagram to show all 45 people. So the total tape is 45. And I know that one van will hold 7 people. Again, I don't know how many groups or how many vans I need. That's the goal of the problem. I'm going to think about my multiples of 7 to get as close to 45 without going over. Now 7 times 6 equals 42. That means if I use 6 vans, that would take care of 42 people. But I have to get everyone to the beach. In the last van, I know that there will only be 3 people, but I still need to count those 3 people. So I have 6 full vans, but I also have 1 partial van, which makes sense with the question. I will then need 7 vans to get everyone to the beach. So we want to make sure that we read the question and think about it logically before we write our final answer.